All right, Jacqueline Murphy, welcome to the Inside Running Podcast. We're doing a bit of an expert kind of special kind of segment this week. You're from Upwell Health Collective. Thanks for giving up some time.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for partnering with us for this episode. I guess first up, tell us a bit about Upwell Health Collective.
Upwell Health Collective is we're a multi-award-winning collaborative and holistic care centre, mostly for movement and musculoskeletal care. We're based in Camberwell in Melbourne's east, and we have a multidisciplinary sort of service, combining a fully integrated model of care with industry-leading technology, including O2G, modern interior. We've got amazing podiatry equipment and an expert team of health practitioners who work all together in one location to optimise health outcomes for all of our patients.
Yeah, and I was just saying to you off air, it all looks pretty special as well when you check out your Instagram kind of page, just how it's not that stereotypical kind of hospital kind of feel of a physio with the white lights and things like that going on.
Yeah, that's right. Our clinic has won design awards as well. Which is just amazing. We walk in the door and it's so bright and uplifting. There's no TV screens in the waiting area. It's really a really welcoming place to come, and we like to think of it as a safe place for our patients to come. We have a lot of people who are experiencing things like chronic pain and chronic health conditions, so we like it to be really safe and inviting for them.
Yeah, cool. And tell us more about those awards. I didn't know that, physio or kind of health professionals can kind of win awards in that kind of category.
Yeah, so we've actually won a design award and a few other awards. Our podiatrist has won, I think was nominated for one. I'm not super sure about this.
Yeah.
It was sort of before I came on board. But yeah, through the Allied Health Awards, we've definitely collected a few there.
Yeah, cool. And tell us a bit about some of the services, like you touched on podiatry and stuff before. What else is on offer there?
So we've got exercise physiology. There's three of us. I'm an exercise physiologist. We have physio, massage therapists. We've got a remedial massage therapist and a myotherapist, podiatry, and we also offer Pilates as well.
Yeah, cool. And did I see on your website you do meditation and stuff there as well, and yoga?
We do have yoga, yeah, just on one afternoon a week, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So talking to a whole bunch of runners here, what are some of the, some of the things you treat most often in there?
Heaps of musculoskeletal conditions, yeah. So knees, hips, backs, shoulders, ankles, feet. They're probably our main ones in terms of musculoskeletal conditions. Yep.
Yeah, cool. And are you treating them just afterwards, or are you doing stuff to make sure that people don't get injured in the first place?
Absolutely, treating them all the way through. So I think people underestimate the need for sort of physio and exercise physiology in terms of preventative treatments as well. So we talk about things with our patients from the beginning. So if someone comes into us got a marathon goal or any form of running goal, we're breaking down that process for them and what boxes we need to tick off to achieve that process.
Yeah, so what does that look like? Can you talk us through it, I guess? Someone wants to break 3 hours at Melbourne Marathon this year in October. They're not injured at the moment, because I think sometimes people often go and see you guys after they're broken. But what would that look like beforehand?
It would include an initial assessment, where we would have a look at current movement patterns, if there was any concerns or if they'd had niggles or injuries in the past. So that would be a big part of our initial assessment, is breaking down that injury history to try and minimise the risk of that, and then looking at what do we need to add into their program that may be missing at the moment. So is it strength training that's specific to them? That's where we really capitalise. Is it some recovery days? Is it some time on the O2G or Pilates, and really break down that process for them to get them through their training program.
Yeah, and load management and stuff as well. Do you look
Absolutely.
At how many Ks they're doing and how they can safely build that up?
Load management is so important for any runner and helps to reduce the risk of any injury for everybody. And it includes time spent running, but also includes the time that they spend doing other activities. We call this allostatic load, so we like to really break that down for people. So as an example, someone might come into our clinic and they might only be running 3 or 4 times a week, which may not be a massive load for them. But if they're doing other types of activity, including walking for an hour, walking the dog for an hour a day, cycling to and from work, standing at their son's footy or their daughter's footy, have a physical job, or even just being sick or stressed, they take a big toll on the body as well. We break this down to our runners in particular, but all of our client base in terms of a backpack analogy. So imagine you're wearing a backpack and you're in a swimming pool and you're kind of staying afloat at the moment, but each one of these additional stresses that we add to the body, so you're running, you're training, your day-to-day activities, every one is a rock added to the backpack, and eventually you're really going to struggle to maintain your buoyancy and you're not going to be able to keep your head above the water for much longer. So we like to really emphasize this with our runners as well, whether they're new to running, been running for years, or like returning from injury. Yeah,
I love that. One of my co-hosts' favourite quote is stress is stress. Like, doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's going to have a bit of an impact on you as well. Yeah, cool. And then like the strength training, you kind of touched on that. You'll give people, like, you'll be able to look at their technique or where they're strong and where they're weak and give them like an individual program rather than just sending everyone into the gym to do deadlifts and squats.
Absolutely. And I think this is what makes Upwell so special, is that we are really keen on individualizing programs. We understand that everybody's body is different. I like to look at strength training as your insurance policy for your body.
Yeah.
Just like we insure our house and our cars, we need to insure our bodies. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get injured at all. I think you'd be very lucky to go through a whole running career and not experience any injury at all. But it does reduce the risk of being injured and build strong and robust bodies. But it's so important that's specific to you. Like, everyone sort of thinks runners need strong glutes, which is absolutely true. But giving every runner the same glute exercise is not going to get the best outcome for that person.
Yeah, cool. And that initial kind of consult, like, what do you make people do on that day? Like, are they running on a treadmill or are they, lifting and stuff to see where they're weak? What's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would have a look at them in a functional capacity. So what does squatting look like? What does single leg squatting look like? What does lunging look like? Get them onto the treadmill, have a look at how they're running. And this is a big part of our podiatry appointments as well, is Pat gets runners onto the treadmill and has a really good look at their foot mechanics and breaks it down. I would do that as well. And then have a look at them in a non-weight bearing position as well. So are those glutes working? Are their hamstrings firing when they're meant to be? Is there any cheats that person's developed? Have they got overactive hip flexors or weak hip flexors? So we really break that down body part by body part and then build it all back up together in a nice strength program.
Yeah, it sounds pretty black and white, doesn't it? Like, anyone doing a training program probably should be checking in with you guys before they even start.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I just think that breaking down the process for even uninjured runners or people who aren't currently injured, it's really important just to have someone like look over their program and just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. How can I get the best out of this program? Or what do you think I need to add in that's extra as well?
And do you notice like runners are bad at that? Like, we've got a bad culture about stay away until there's something wrong.
Absolutely. I'm a runner myself, and I think that we do get in this, like, everything's good at the moment. How long can I kind of hold on for?
Yeah.
And then I often find that we can get through a few runs and a few events really quite easily, and that might be over 3 or 4 years. And then we start to break down. It's not necessarily the one event or the one training program or the one training session that broke us. It's that accumulative load again over a long period of time that really starts to chip away at our bodies. And as we get older as well, I think it's so important to make sure that we've got strong bodies just for life activities too.
Yeah, exactly right. And like longevity, just as being healthy and upright.
Correct.
What about like other injury prevention kind of things that you guys do? Obviously that assessment's one thing, but I know it's kind of hard because everyone's individual, but anything else you kind of recommend? We've got listeners like all over Australia and the world, but anything they can all take away from it?
Absolutely, just managing like your training program and being aware of like days when you're not feeling that great. Like if you had a really late night up, if you've been up with kids during the night, or if you've been super stressed at work the day before, maybe going out the next morning or that night to do a hard session isn't what you need to be doing. It's definitely worth like reassessing that, like, oh, I've had a really rough day, or I'm feeling pretty tired today. I'm just going to go for an easy run, or I'm just going to skip my run altogether today. You're not going to lose fitness from missing one session. You're not going to lose fitness missing a week, just to give your body that time to recover. So if you are having like that really stressful period in your life, just reassessing what your priorities are. The other thing that I'm really big on is and especially for recreational runners, is making sure that easy runs are easy and I know this is something that's brought up quite a bit on your
You sound like
show.
a running coach. We talk about this all the time.
I know. So I like to call it chit chat pace.
Yeah.
So if you're running along, like on your easy run, you should be able to have a fairly easy conversation with the person next to you. Or if you're running on your own, like have a think to yourself, oh, could I have a chat now? That's a really good injury prevention tool because it allows your body to absorb load. If we're always running hard, we don't get that chance to just run and just be relaxed in that running. It reduces the strain on the body.
And what about the importance of seeing someone who's like yourself, a runner also, and kind of understands this? I know I've been to a few physios over the years, and their first question might be like, oh yeah, so do you run like every day or every third day? And it's kind of hard to, you spend the first 25 minutes in there trying to explain what distance running is and how the sport is. Like, do you think that's a strong importance as well?
It is so important. And I know for myself, like anytime I've been to another health professional, if they're a runner, they get it. So like just even been able to have that conversation with someone about reducing their training load for a period of time or telling them that they can't run for a period of time, I think has so much more compassion and empathy in it when you know that your practitioner understands what it's like to not be able to run, or they know what it's like to take a day off running or reduce your running load during the week. If your practitioner understands that from their perspective, they're going to be so much more confident in giving you that advice, but also you're going to be more receptive to that advice as well.
Yeah, cool.
So important.
And the Ultra G you got in there, it's one of those kind of, I don't know, like I guess it's back to that kind of story about if you're not injured, we don't know too much about it. And I guess we see a lot of it on social media where the professional guys have just come back from an operation and they spend a bit of time on it. But what do you guys use it for in there?
Absolutely. We use it for return to running from injury mostly, but it can also be as an option to reduce some stress on the body. So if you've had a really big, heavy training block of maybe 8 to 12 weeks, then sometimes just jumping on the Ultra G for an easier week of running or to take some of that stress of the like running outside has on the body. So we can adjust the body percentage that you run out from. Normally I would start, as a practitioner myself, I'd probably start at about 70% body weight. Too much lower than that and you start to feel like you're floating, but obviously it depends on the injury that the person has, and you can change your technique a little bit if you are at too much of a reduced body weight. But I've used it myself returning from injury, and I found it so helpful in just that headspace because I still got to run without having sort of that damaging load that my body couldn't take at that time.
Yeah, and what about like post-marathon? Do you ever use it for clients who have, busted themselves up over a marathon and kind of got to gradually come back to running?
Yeah, like I'd always encourage like a complete rest period post-marathon, especially in recreational runners. But once you kind of get to that sort of maybe 3 or 4 week post-marathon mark, it is a good alternative to start to reintroduce running again, especially if you're really beat up after that marathon. And it's taken you that long to really start to feel good again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. And listeners will definitely put all the links in the show notes and stuff. But one other thing I noticed just from doing a bit of research on Upwell Health Collective this morning was like how much you guys support people in sports. I know I saw some stuff on Katie Brennan, like the AFL women's footballer, and, putting, resources back in to help people achieve their best, which is pretty cool.
It's really cool. We've got such a great program here where we're in a position where we can support some of the AFLW girls and some other people within the community. It's fantastic, yeah.
And what about yourself, Jackie? What do you got coming up? Like any races?
I'm actually on my way back from injury myself at the moment.
Are you being in good hands?
Trying to be.
Yeah.
It's so hard when you're a health practitioner and you injured yourself.
I could imagine,
So I'm just looking at rebuilding my load. I'm only running every second day at the moment, so I absolutely get where people are coming from when they're injured.
You know what people are talking about.
That's right. Can I just give a quick overview of what exercise physiology is?
Oh, that was my next question. I've got that,
perfect.
Because we've got a bit of an assessment to offer our listeners as well, so that would be a perfect lead-in.
That's right. So as an EP, I'm university qualified allied health professional we're the experts in exercise prescription for the management of these injuries, for movement assessments, for strength training. Like that's what our whole university degree is based on. I think that's the key take home, is that we are university qualified. So different to just going to see somebody who's a PT, is that we've got that sort of more in-depth knowledge about the body as well. So that's exercise physiology in a little nutshell.
And so, like, do you guys do like technique work and stuff with runners as well?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably that's my forte. I'm not huge on changing running technique per se, because I think that bodies have been loaded to be a certain way, and those structures are going to have adapted to cope with that load. But I just think that having a look at technique, and if there's those little things that we can change, like things like overstriding or leaning backwards instead of coming forwards into the running position, they're little things that we can address without too much issues at all. But I'm not going to go changing people's technique, because I think that's a really dangerous way to address it.
Yeah, awesome. Jacqueline, do you want to give us some details about this offer that's out there for the Inside Running podcast listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are offering a free initial exercise physiology assessment with myself using the code INSIDE, and this is valued at $110. So all listeners need to do is just give us a call, and then we can book them in and get them started, as well as like shooting me an email online or whatever works best.
Yeah, if you're in Melbourne, you'd be silly not to, I think, after that conversation.
Jump on our Instagram and have a look.
Yeah.
We put quite a bit of work into it.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, thanks for that. And you're a bit of a fan of Melissa Duncan as well. That was why you wanted to come on this week's interview, or this week's episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really looking forward to hearing that chat. Bradley's going to do that in the next couple of days. So, yeah, thanks a lot for your time again today, and, partner up with us for this one.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me.